Ben Carlson destroys Ocasio-Cortez in front of everyone. This hilarious debate has gone viral, and let's figure out together what happened there.
Thank you, Chairwoman, and thank you, Secretary Carson, for joining us today. Secretary Carson, in December 2017, you delivered a keynote at the Manhattan Institute where you stated, quote, "The war on poverty sometimes conflicted with the war on drugs, which often dealt harshly with nonviolent offenders, taking men away from their families and disproportionately affecting minority communities." Are these your words?
Yes.
Do you acknowledge that the war on drugs disproportionately impacted Black communities and communities of color, despite marijuana and other drug use levels being comparable to white communities?
Traditionally, that has been the case.
And I see here, are you also aware that when a formerly incarcerated person is homeless, there's a 60% chance that they will be rearrested? But if that same person has access to housing, the percentage drops to 29%.
Housing is one of the factors that is beneficial in preventing recidivism.
And how is he wrong? The Washington Times reports that violent crime is on the rise in the United States. The publication notes that economic factors such as inflation are worsening the crime situation. The police, due to staff shortages, are not fully doing their job. Attention is paid only to serious crimes, while less serious cases of law-breaking are often ignored. According to the Washington Times, robberies, assaults, and rapes have increased in the United States. Crime is up in Chicago by 41%, New York City by 23%, and Los Angeles by 8%. The United States is returning to the criminal 1990s of the last century. The publication notes, here is the truth. The homeless are more likely to take such risks to survive.
I'm concerned here that the war on drugs has not been solely limited to incarceration, and that the negative impact of the war on drugs has not been limited to incarceration. But also we had legislated rippling effects that also seems to have been codified in our housing system. Are you aware of HUD's one-strike rule, which evicts tenants for a single incidence of criminal activity, no matter how minor, with no holistic review?
There is the ability of local jurisdictions to alter that rule.
Wait, isn't that entirely their problem? They should be fully aware that if they have been prosecuted for offenses, then repeat offenses will be much tougher and more severe. And the fact that some states have such laws in place is a perfectly open and permissible policy. The owner has the right to do this, and he should not be condemned by society because he is acting in his own interest and safety.
Mm-hmm. But federally, this provision still persists, correct?
As far as I know, it's still intact.
Mm-hmm. And so a person could be stop and frisked and be found in possession of a small amount of marijuana and then be evicted or have their entire family evicted from public housing.
That is a possibility.
Are you aware that owners and public housing authorities can subject tenants to tests for alcohol and drugs?
They can require that, yes.
Mm-hmm. And I see here that we also have no-fault policies where an entire family can be evicted for the criminal activity of a guest of the household, even without the knowledge of anyone in that household. Are you aware of that provision as well?
The use of such activity is extremely limited, if ever used.
Mm-hmm. But they are still codified in federal law, correct?
Is it on the federal books? As far as I know, it's been on the books for many, many years.
Mm-hmm. Do you support reversing some of these provisions?
Do I prevent which provisions?
Say the no-fault policy.
I can talk about that on individual cases if you have an example that you want to talk about.
Well, I'd say, would you support being able to move some of these policies over to a more holistic review? You know, you yourself asked for case-by-case consideration. Should that case-by-case consideration be codified in federal law instead of having blanket one-strike or no-fault policies?
I'm always in favor of more flexibility.
I agree with Ben Carlson, who has quite clearly and honorably defended his point of view, and in my opinion, what he has expressed is a perfectly legitimate and legal point of view. Ocasio-Cortez was talking rubbish and condemning federal law, which is not a very good thing to do. What do you think about this whole situation? Write your opinion in the comments and don't forget to watch other shocking news on the channel.